Alright everyone, welcome back to the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be going through some of the biggest changes that came into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in 2024. So these could be game updates, changes to it, new characters, whatever it is, right? We're not really going to get into new characters as much because that kind of happens every year, but what were the big things that happened this year that impacted large swaths of the player base? Let me know your thoughts down below. Is there anything I missed that you were expecting to see here? Is there stuff on here that you're like, hey, Phil, I don't think that was as big as you think? I want to hear from you guys in the comments as always. Let's give a shout out to our channel members for their continued support. If you're ever interested, that link is down below, along with a link to the Discord. Please go check out the Discord, guys. It means a lot when I see that Discord popping off and you guys having good conversations there. I love to see it here. Really appreciate everybody, sticking with me through thick and thin. Let's get in here. Let's talk about the stuff that's happened in 2024. Alright folks, so the first thing I want to talk about is the new ships that we've gotten and kind of the changes to fleets. So in January of this year, we got the Common Pants for Zora. You guys remember, Common Pants came into the game. Really solid, again, really solid ship. And I believe that was January. I want to say that was a January kind of, release, right? Someone correct me on that. Hold on. Yeah, it says we got it January 16th of 2024. So it's been we've had it here for a little bit. It was awesome. It made the Resistance fleet a much more dominant fleet in terms of kind of joining into that, B tier fleet instead of, F tier. But the bigger news was we got the Punishing One. And the changes that has just completely, devolved Fleet Arena. With Punishing One, the biggest loser of them all was absolutely the Empire fleet, because not only did this just completely fall off the cliff of an A-tier fleet, but it's now bugged where the Scythe is not really granting marked to the proper ships. It's a disaster. It's affecting everything. Punishing One just completely came in and destroyed that Empire fleet's value, destroyed the Profundity's value against Executor, but then they decided to buff Leviathan and TIE Dagger, which now devalued everything in the game because that's just such an impactful change. So it's really created this imbalance in fleets where, particularly when I look at Grand Arena, there's a lot of times where it's coming down to, a lot of people are playing this way, where I'll do whatever I can, but you've got to go clear Leviathan. And if you don't, I lost a Grand Arena because I couldn't clear it. I've won Grand Arenas because my opponent hasn't. It's a mess. And it sucks because before Punishing One, I actually felt that there was some really cool parity in fleets that it actually did come down to, do you have the skill to pull off these counters? Do you know what you're doing? And if you don't, you're going to lose. Now there's a big element of RNG of, does dodges happen? Do you get enough assists with Profundity? What's going on? And, who attacks here? It's really a mess. They need to figure out something to do with fleets to add back that balance that we had prior to Punishing One. I'm not a fan of the Punishing One update. I think they should have nerfed that ship rather than buffing the Leviathan because I think it just did a little bit too much. Again, one man's humble opinion. Alright guys, the next thing was the GL ticket grind, and this has completely revolutionized the Galactic Legend process. So the biggest thing they did was in the Shard Shop currency, they added, for 5,000 currency, you could purchase 100 tickets. Now, the one caveat here, and I did see a post here, I hope they fix this. You cannot purchase this if it's going to take you above 144 tickets. Now, I wish they would update this to just say, you can't go above 144, it doesn't matter, right? But there are players who are stuck at 44 tickets and can't purchase this because it's treating it as if it would exceed 144 tickets rather than just put you on the nose. So that does need to get fixed because that is a problem. And that not only applies to stuff here, but also even to the crystals where I can't purchase more because I would be going above it. I wish they would just let you preload it to 144 and that you can't go above it. I feel like that shouldn't be that hard to implement, but, what do I know? I do like this change because I think it's giving you a better alternative to spending crystals, to get these things. So I like that. I think that's good. I will say this, though, right? I am going to say this, and I'm going to try to, get it out there for people. That change also now means that when you're going for your GL, you're going to be getting them faster. So that means you need to have the relics, the Zetas, and the mods much more quickly than you normally would have because if you don't, you're going to unlock this GL and not have the gear because you used to, have to go through that ticket grind process. And for many of you, with certain GLs, you might drop tickets. So you'd end up losing tickets, which they also stopped. So it's going to be a lot faster that players are getting Galactic Legends, and you're going to have to be prepared to change the way that you're going through their farming process to ensure that by the time you unlock them, you are ready to equip the Zetas and the gear and the mods, because it's going to come a lot sooner than many of you are used to. For some of us, it's not as big of a change. We weren't dropping tickets. We were preloading things anyway. Like, we're going to be fine. But for some of you who that's a big issue, you now have to rethink the way that you farm these characters. You're going to have to be a lot more focused to put yourself in a position where you're going to get all the stuff that you need. So I think this is a very positive change. It's going to get you GLs faster, but you are going to have to change the way that you're farming to make sure that you have the, gear ready for that Galactic Legend. And for a lot of you, all that means is you just got to stay focused. That, hey, Luthen's a great character, but I can't go build the Luthen team if I'm trying to get Ahsoka in 2 or 3 months. So just bear that in mind. That is going to be a change for a lot of you. And that kind of bleeds right into the Zeta economy, which has been completely flipped on its head this year. Now, I think that started in 2023 with the release of the Rey, Kylo, and Starkiller Lightspeed bundles, but I think it's been exacerbated in 2024 with the sheer number of Lightspeed bundles that have been released, the characters that are requiring Zetas. It is crazy. And I think a big reason this has happened as well is because there's so many characters who now require 2 Zetas, 3 Zetas, and the economy really hasn't had an update in terms of how you can get more Zetas in a very long time. At least from a, without spending money, right? Because if you spend, you can get more Zetas, but if you're not going to spend, it's hard. And I have the Malak characters here as kind of just a fun little thing to go back to, 2022 when I unlocked Malak. So I unlocked Malak in February of 2022. I was super late. Again, you guys got to let me know, just sidebar here. I had done a video years ago. It was called A Brief History of My Account, and I kind of talked about from the start of my account all the way to where it was at that point in time. So if you're ever curious, you can go check that out. But if you guys would like me to redo that, it'd be a longer video. But if you'd like me to redo that, I could definitely take that trip down memory lane with you guys. But I bring that up because when I did the Malak event, it was way before the gear changes. And that it was easier for me to stomach spending Zetas on Karth, Mission, and Zalbar. Like, I would rather spend the Zetas to get them above that 17,500 power. I could do that easier than I could spend stun cuffs and stun guns on them. And it wasn't even like it was that much core gear for them. Like, it really wasn't anything crazy. It still was just Zetas. I had more Zetas. I had access to Zetas, and I didn't have access to the Carbanis and the other stuff as much. Nowadays, like, I would much more, I look at that and I'm like, man, I could easily do this now. We got 3,000 Carbanis. Like, this is easy. But at the time, I had more Zetas. And so that's been just a huge change in this game, that for a very long time, Zetas were a lot more common and the core gear wasn't. And now it's completely flipped. So, I think this Zeta economy does need a looking at, or at least offer packs that will give Zetas to people who purchase Lightspeed bundles. Give them an opportunity to spend more money, but it's for stuff that they need. I would be okay with that. I think a lot of other people who spend money in this game wouldn't hate if that was something that you were doing, because I do think that it is a problem that does need to get solved here. All right, the other thing that happened this year, we got the Marquee change, where when we get these new characters, their events, if you buy a few of the Marquee packs, you get them to 4-star, you can earn additional shards along the way. I think that's been an awesome change. I love that. I think what they've really done well there is encouraged that a little bit of light, like, whether it's light spending, or for me it's bonus crystals, but for some players it's legitimate light spending, and they're getting a massive benefit out of it. And that was a part of the player base that I think they really had struggled with for a bit, was nobody really interacted with the Marquee units until they absolutely have to, or until they had farmed them. And now you're getting, them a lot faster through that change. Like, it's something I do all the time. I love this. I think it's a good way to get us into using the characters before they're, 100% necessary. And again, I think it's rewarding people for, I'd say, a little bit of work, right? That do a little bit of work, you're going to get a pretty decent reward out of it. So I like that change. Again, thumbs up CG. I hope this Marquee stuff kind of continues the way it is, because I think it is a really good particularly for those of us at that stage in the game where all I'm bottlenecked by is these new character shards. Like, that's all I'm bottlenecked by. Like, the new character shards are what completely ruined me. And so to sit here and be like, yeah, you know what? By having all of these things and getting these extra shards, it's saving me, weeks and weeks of farming. Like, thumbs up. So, along with, like, other changes that have made the game easier, the purpose of Lightspeed bundles. In 2023, when they released the Ray bundle, they released Kylo, and Starkiller, right? And even, like, the Phoenix crew. It was, like, that Rebel, and Friends thing. Those bundles, like, were really nice. They helped you catch up. But if we're honest, it didn't really change all that much about, like, it didn't get you anything that was currently going on. Like, it wasn't like Rey and Kylo were raid characters or that they were coming into something. Like, it just was, hey, here's some stuff that's old that we can give you. Now, this year, they've added a lot of these Lightspeed bundles that have a purpose. Think about the Night Sister bundle. We got that to align yourself to get Great Mothers and Morgan. They handed out the Galactic Republic and Separatist bundles, which allowed you to do better in the battle for Naboo. They have all these mercenary bundles, which are going well with Baylan Shin and getting into Conquest. Like, the Lightspeed bundles this year have been released with a lot more purpose and a lot more thought. And I think that's been a huge change, a thumbs up from me, and even selling stuff like Kairi Mundi. Again, I think this is still one of the best decisions they ever made to sell this character, because it was something that was a thorn in a lot of players' sides of this guy's so good, really wanted, but is kind of in, being in Geonosis territory battles rather than Rise of the Empire caused a lot of problems for guilds of people just couldn't stomach getting this guy, even though it made sense from a Get 3 perspective, but who the hell am I? I only create content for this game. But yeah, so I think that selling him was smart, and I think it showed that CG was listening, right? It showed that you guys were like, yeah, you know what? This is something that we should do. So thumbs up again. Good job. All right, now this one I will say a little bit on the negative side. The need for quality mods has just continued to increase. And while that's great, again, very similar to Zeta's, you haven't done a lot to help the mod economy. The episode pass might change a few things, right? I'm not going to say it won't, that it might change a few things. But even still, there's not a lot of great ways to get quality mods. And the need for them is getting more and more extreme. And especially, I'll say that a lot of characters all need the same kind of mods. Speed, health, offense. Like, that's all people need nowadays. And I complain about that a lot. But either you as a, company, developers, whatever, you've got to find a way to make stats like protection, defense, tenacity, potency make a difference. Like Dr. Afro, who loves potency. Great. Okay, cool. But you've got to find a way to make some of those other things more valuable to characters, because otherwise you're just running out of, like, I sit here and I'm like, I can't mod my Captain Enoch yet because I don't have health mods. Like, I don't have enough health % primary mods to go around because everybody needs them now. And you say, oh, Phil, we'll just go farm them. Well, I can't just go farm them because, like, I'm not going to get good ones. Like, it's the need for quality mods has increased, and they haven't done a lot to make it any easier to obtain quality mods now, like, 9 years into the game. So hopefully that's something that can improve. And I'm really looking at that from the perspective of these players in that middle part of the game who, back in the day, you needed 1 or 2 really good mod sets, and that would kind of carry you through the game. Now you need like 50. Which is always problematic. So just bear that in mind. And there's not a lot of good UI even inside of the game to like switch mods around. Like, it's so challenging to switch mods around. You got to create all this stuff. Like, there's not a lot of things in the game to make modding any easier. And so, like, with all these quality mods, you got to move them and stuff. There's not a lot of structure in the game to make it a simple process. So I hope that changes. It's something that I think is a little bit on the negative side here, that you need to find ways to create certain mod sets that are quality for characters that aren't just the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and then some UI to make it easier to switch. But finally, we're getting to the episode change, and I think the episode pass, the episode, structure is awesome. I really like this. I think it's been a solid update for the game to kind of put this in here and put it in the hands of the player to say, hey, you know what? By working towards this stuff, you can get extra rewards. The episode pass for $20, I think, is a great idea. in terms of the rewards that are up here are crazy good. Like, I thought they were really, really valuable up here for $20. You know, you can't get that anywhere else. But the other thing is that it's opening up and evolving the game into something that I think was lacking for a long time. And that is opening up to new spenders. When this game first launched, I always kind of said that their business model was, we're going to cater to that top 1% of player, right? That those top 1% of players who are going to wail on the newest, latest, and greatest things, we're going to cater to them. We're going to make sure that they get whatever they want, or that they're the ones that are going to generate all of our money, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, that there was, 500,000 players playing this game at the start. And I don't know what the number is, but say it was 500,000. Well, 1% of 500,000 is 5,000 players. So you have 5,000 players that are kind of relied upon to spend the money to keep the game afloat. Well, as that player base has dropped off, there's less 1% of the player base is a smaller number. Now, maybe some of them don't leave, but that number has fallen off. So now, what you used to rely on 5,000 players for, you're relying on 3,000 or 2,500 players for. So I think they've done a lot, and particularly with the episode pass being what it was, that they've looked at it and said, hey, you know what? We maybe need to release some packs with a lot more value that more people will purchase. That instead of asking, hey, I want to make $100, so I'm going to go around to 100 people and ask them for $100. If I want to make $100, do I want to go ask 100 people for $100 and hope one person says, hey, here you go? Or could I make more money by going around to that 100 people and asking for $5 or $10 or $1, or, whatever it is, right? That was kind of the business model, was go to the top end, ask them, and they'll spend it. And I think they're trying to transition that a little bit to say, hey, why don't we get those people who aren't quite willing to spend 100 in one go, but maybe they'll spend 5 or 10 or 15, whatever the case is. And then even some of these packs like this one, I want to bring this one up. So for $100, you say, all right, this pack is pretty expensive, right? But if you purchase this, you unlock it, the duality number 2, a second identical bundle at 50% off. So by purchasing this bundle, you're getting all these, which for $100 is a pretty decent deal. But when you think about it, that if you get the second bundle, you're going to spend $150. So each of these is like $75. That's a hell of a deal, right? Like that, it used to be, to get a Relic 8 character was $100 as it is. This is about $75 plus adding in Relic 9 materials, a ton of other stuff. So I do want to say that I think this is a good shift in the game, that they are trying to offer packs with a lot more value to them. Even though this price is a lot, comparative to what it used to be, I think they have come down a little bit. They've faced the music that the game can't support some of the pricing models they had before. And I think that's also why we're going to see the Hyperdrive bundle to drop down to a $10 price point for a period of time. They're trying to entice people to spend little bits of money where otherwise they wouldn't have before, and I think that's a thumbs up change from me. I think it's going to keep this game afloat, and I think it's going to evolve into something even better than it is now. And I think with, kind of circling back to this episode pass, kind of switching to this 28-day structure, I think is really good. That's what GAC is on, territory battles, territory wars, all that stuff is kind of on this, monthly cadence to make sure that it's all coming back around. I think that's good. I think that's going to allow for a lot less manipulation on Capital Games' part to keep the game flowing, right? That, okay, we know this is going to happen, so we can do this and schedule this every 28 days or every so often. And then on the flip side, that's going to allow them more time to focus on bugs or creating new content rather than keeping the current stuff afloat. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Again, like, subscribe. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.